I'm the co-founder of DaVinci Education. Our software platform is Leo, and I always like to start off by giving you some sense of why you should be trusting us with your time today and who we are and why we're here. So we've been doing this for about a decade, working with osteopathic and allopathic medical schools really all around the world, primarily in the States. We were, for those of you not familiar, we were actually born out of a construction with a Duke School of Medicine. So we were built inside a medical school for medical schools and have continued that focus for the past decade that we've been in this market. We have a very well-established presence with the AAMC and participate frequently in their webinars and other kind of ongoing education events. So we're very in tune with what they're doing over there. We have a team of healthcare education veterans, and you'll hear me talk about this again a little bit more today. I'm very proud of this. Our company has come from higher education, or specifically healthcare education, in many of the roles that you all sit in today. So we really understand the challenges, and we really have leveraged that experience to, I think, help make your jobs easier. And as we say, we know how to make all this easier, and especially this part. So I don't think this is anybody's great idea of fun, spending your lunch hour sitting in a demo, right? The buying process, the decision process, even just the initial, overview it's challenging. And so we have taken our experience and learned how university processes work. And we have some tips and tricks for navigating that to help you all just be able to reach a decision point sooner and then be confident in the decision that you're making. So, and the other thing that is a little bit different about what we do is we are not here today to show you how Leo works. And that may sound a little counterintuitive, but what I mean by that is Leo is built to be flexible. So much of how Leo works is going to be dependent on what we learn from you throughout these conversations with you. Then our wonderful implementation team of healthcare education veterans takes what we've learned and helps you configure and utilize Leo in a way that serves your needs. So while we're not here today to show you how Leo works, we are here to show you how Leo helps. And I hope that makes sense. And I think you'll see as we move through what that can mean for you all. Each of you, I'm sure, have different responsibilities for the program, not to mention the students and faculty. So you each have certain things you have to do. I'm sure there's some folks who are only responsible for mapping, right? There's some folks that are only responsible perhaps for clerkship management or student advising. But there are other parts of the curriculum that, based on our experience, we know that everybody touches, right? I'm sure at some point, everybody has their hands on the LMS. Everyone encounters an evaluation from one side or the other. And the problem that we've seen our partners struggle with before they came to us is, how do you keep those responsibilities distinct and clear in your minds and have a clear line of sight on what you need to do while still having transparency into everything that's happening across your curriculum anytime for anyone in real time? Because at the end of the day, you have one curriculum and you have to manage and deliver and assess that curriculum, right? So whether you're managing it in terms of this calendar or small student groups or scheduling rotations, whether you're in charge of or part of delivering that content and that curriculum mapping and the student engagement, or assessing whether that's tracking student performance over time, evaluations, tracking faculty effort, accreditation reporting, all of that comes together in the curriculum that you're delivering. And so Leo can help you manage, deliver, and assess your curriculum more efficiently and more effectively, probably than you're able to do now. And the secret to that sauce is Leo's central calendar, which provides this shared source of truth for everyone to be able to have both a universal view and a very personalized view at the same time. And that helps you drive more action for all your stakeholders and improvements for your program. That's what we'll be covering today, how Leo helps in these different areas. Just wanted to tee up some different points of view for you from a faculty perspective, student perspective, and administrator perspective. So I'll kind of go back and forth between those different views. I will tell you when I'm doing that and why I'm doing it. You'll see the screen change a little bit, but as I mentioned before, it's the same calendar. It's just viewed through a little bit different lens. So we are in a super user view here. So kind of one of the high level administrative users You can tell that because there's this spine over here that kind of has all the power tools of Leo. Sometimes we'll look at a faculty view here in Firefox. We have a faculty member, Robert Guthrie, and you can see he's got a few of the power tools, but he doesn't have as many over here, and they are relative to his responsibilities across the curriculum in his courses and sessions. And then in Safari, we will have our student view. Lucy Stone is our sample student. And you can see Lucy doesn't have any of those power tools over here on the left because Lucy's job is to get in there and learn and perform. So those are the three different views. Again, you'll notice as we looked at all of these that they all are basically looking at the same calendar, but they have different information on the calendar. The first one had quite a few more events here or sessions than Lucy does. But the beautiful thing about Leo is you don't see a calendar, you see your calendar. And the users get that personalized view of the curriculum for whatever their roles and responsibilities are. So for students like Lucy, what that means is they can save time, they can lessen their cognitive load because everything's here, and they can get to their action items quicker. So right from the homepage, and again, we'll just kind of dance across this quickly. Lucy can view her courses and sessions. This is a session, like a session on any other calendar, but she can see here that there's mandatory attendance for this session. There is a dress code. She knows she needs to wear the white coat. She can click into this. She can see the session details, who's teaching, rich content here embedded. She can see if there are Zoom links for this session, they can be built right into Leo. Assignments, discussions, messaging. If you make your mapping visible to your students, she can see the mapping for this particular session, which helps her know what she's expected to learn, right? So she can do that. She can also see patient encounter logs. If this is a clinical course, she can click here to what we call PET, patient encounter tracking, and she can enter and modify her patient encounter records. She can see what she needs to pay attention to up here in this little activity bell. Lucy has been rather neglectful, I guess, of everything going on in her bell. We use her for all of our demos. But as you can see here, she can see that she's been added to lotteries. She's got exams coming up. She can sort here if she wants to start with assignments. And so again, everything is here, and these things will take her, these are all links, they will take her straight to the course or the session that that assignment or that lottery or that evaluation is related to. Again, the calendar itself is able to be fed into any calendar tool that people are really in love with Google Calendar, or everybody uses Outlook. As an individual, you can just subscribe to the Leo calendar and it can flow in just like any other calendar subscription. And that means that the updates that are made one time to this universal calendar in Leo flow out to everyone in real time. And I imagine that you all probably spend a little more time than you would like modifying calendars, changing things, reissuing them. Maybe you even have to print them. I think we talked to one school one time that had 4 or 5 different calendars for their curriculum. And again, there's one curriculum, there's one set of things going on, but how do you differentiate those and still provide that broader picture? That's how Leo helps with that. So this unified real-time calendar gives you the ability to focus less on calendar management and more on effective teaching and interacting with your students. And one thing that I would like to just point out, we're going to go back over here to Firefox, to our faculty view, to kind of illustrate this transparency that can happen at 2 different levels simultaneously. So I mentioned here that Robert Guthrie is an instructor. He is seeing all these events on the calendar because he's been given visibility into just the curriculum calendar, right? What's happening. But he doesn't have equivalent responsibilities in each event. So he can go on to a session where he is an instructor. So I'm going to go here, click on that. You can see his role is an instructor, Robert Guthrie. He can see the assignments. He can engage in discussions with his students. He can upload materials. He can address the curriculum mapping. He can see the grade book, all those kinds of things, because he has instructional authority in this session. But if I click on a session where I happen to know he's not an instructor, and I look over here, you can see that he has far fewer options here, right? And his role now is just visitor. But what he can see is he can see the mapping. So he can know, oh gosh, they're teaching the same thing I'm teaching, or perhaps this is something that's coming before his class and he wants to know that he's teaching something that is subsequent to this. He can also look at the materials. Again, he can't do anything to these materials or this mapping. This is not his session, but he can be aware of what's being taught there. And so that, from giving that transparency directly to the faculty, is really powerful and is something that Leo can help with so that they don't have to ask someone those questions. If we go back to Lucy's perspective, Lucy, our student, she can go and see everything that's happening in the course, content-wise, also mapping-wise. So again, she can go from this session. We click straight on this session in the calendar. She can also go up to the section or the course level. And as you all know, different things happen. There are different elements present at the course level than there are at a session level. So Leo helps you to navigate and kind of hold those two levels in concert with each other, but very distinct from each other. So I'm in here as Lucy, and I want to see what we call the tree view of this course. And maybe she's going out on, an extended leave or something, and she wants to have an overview of everything happening in the course. So this is just a sample 1-week course that we use in our demo system. But if there were 20 weeks in this course, you would have 20 weeks laid out here. So Lucy can click here and she can see everything happening in this week and then by day, and expand that. And again, these are all links that will take her directly to that event, for example. But she can sort by day or look at it by day. She can look at it by event type. Maybe she's only concerned with being caught up on the lectures that are coming up, by instructor, by location, by theme and competency, these types of things. So this is visible to anyone who is associated with the course, but I wanted to make sure that you understood that also students could see it. And it's incredibly helpful for them to be able to navigate that. Somebody probably comes in here with the idea that they want to search on a particular event type, or because there's a particular instructor teaching that maybe they haven't gotten the greatest evaluations from that instructor. So they want to make sure they know which sessions that instructor is going to be teaching, things like that. So giving that ability to drill down into the curriculum for an individual user is very, very powerful. Now, if we go to the other side of it and say, what if someone wants to look at everything that's being taught across the curriculum for the whole academic year, for example, this is where we can pop into one report that I will show you here. Again, it's a tree view, like that tree view that Lucy just looked at. But from an administrative standpoint, if we look at this, you can see there can be any number of years of data stored in Leo. There's virtually no practical limit to the amount of data that you can store here. And for longitudinal reporting purposes, that can be quite handy. But we're just going to grab one of these years here and say, I'm going to look at the tree view of the goals and objectives, which again is kind of the big bucket of your program objectives for this academic year, Medicine 2019-20. And let's just pick this one. These are all the objectives for that year, that academic year. If I click here and I say, well, where was this apply knowledge of the biomedical sciences? Where was that mapped to courses in this academic year? I can click there and I can see which courses it was mapped to. Which events was it mapped to? Hopefully it would be more than 2, but you can click and expand those. Long events are longitudinal events that take place over more than one day. You can map those. Exams that happen in Leo. Materials. Now, this is what you'll get if you don't have something mapped to that. And this is literally a red flag that says, wait a minute, how could we not have this objective mapped to any materials in this academic year? That's something we need to address, right? And again, all of these are links that take you directly to that. In this case, it was a section, right? And then you could look at, if you wanted to look at the mapping here, if you wanted to manage the materials as an administrator, which is how we're in the system now, you can do that. So that ability, again, to drill down from this very, very high level is something that is very useful for accreditors too. We have had multiple schools tell us that they set up a little account for their site visitors and they put them on this tree view. And what they can do is they can see all the content. They can see that you're really teaching and delivering the curriculum that you say you are. So it's extremely helpful in the case of a site visit, as well as for internal purposes and being able to audit what's happening there. So the calendar helps you deliver the curriculum, and that mapping, right, shows you what you're delivering. And one of the primary purposes of mapping is to give you that transparency, to be able to see what's being taught where across sessions, courses, and program levels. So if we just saw that tree view, right? If we looked at the section or the course level, again, in this pediatrics course, there is, you can see all the mapping here. You can just look at the course objectives, session objectives. You can get a summary, map themes. Then there's also a report here called the event mapping detail report. So when you have a very long course or a course with many, many events in it, for example, that event mapping detail exports and sends to you in a background report. It's either an Excel file, a CSV file, or an Excel workbook. And then you can do pivot tables on it really simply. It's set up to be really, really flexible in terms of how you can look at that information coming out. So that's very useful, again, when you've got courses that have many, many events or material or data that you want to look at. And then again, for the event, you can look at the mapping. This is the mapping for this session. So you can see the session objectives, which materials got mapped with things, instructional and assessment methodologies, which come built in to Leo. Themes, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but themes are really helpful in terms of cutting across your curriculum. So it's not just something that you could only attach to a particular course. A theme can be anything. A theme can be geriatric care. A theme can be cultural competence. So you can tag those to sessions all across your curriculum, and you can also tag them to evaluation questions. And we'll see that a little bit later when we look at the way that we track student performance, and Leo helps with that. To be able to use themes, you can use competencies as themes and literally see how students are performing against those themes or competencies as they move through your program. So obviously curriculum mapping shouldn't be a hidden process, right? Or a headache like it probably has been in the past for you all. Making your mapping visible to faculty and students in this transparent way can really help them make action plans from either the teaching or the learning standpoint to help them move forward too. And mapping also, unfortunately is often a kind of an afterthought, right? Or it's something that everybody has to hustle to do because there's a site visit coming up or because it's the end of the year. And because Leo serves as this combination of your mapping platform and your learning management system, you save time and effort for all your stakeholders. And again, everyone can really get down to the teaching and learning and what they're there to do. So I think that is probably a good place to stop and ask if there are any questions about mapping, about curriculum management and managing your curriculum data in Leo. Managing was the first of the three areas we were going to cover today.
So I had a question.
Sure.
Do you have a mobile app for this system where students can access information through a mobile app?
Students can absolutely access it through mobile devices. The whole system is responsive in design, whether it's tablets, phones, desktops. The beauty of doing it as a web application that is mobile friendly is that you don't have to have separate apps. So absolutely it can be done. Some of the more administrative things, like the things that we're looking at over here, the power tool stuff, is typically optimized for a desktop view. But certainly for students and faculty, things like patient encounter tracking, evaluations, accessing course content, all that kind of thing can definitely be done on mobile.
And does your curriculum search within documents, or is it just the level of session titles or?
That's a great question. It searches every text-based element in the platform. So it certainly is the title of documents. It's everything that would be associated with any text that would be here, any text that's in your objectives, course or session level objectives, any text that's even in a PDF document. It can search text of PDFs, and it can also search the landing page of any web links that you would have in Leo as well. It'll search that first page. So it definitely is a very robust search function that can address that. All right, I think we're about halfway through our demo. If we can move on now to delivering, right? We talked about managing, delivering, and assessing your curriculum. Leo's central source of truth really helps you deliver your curriculum more effectively for medical education than a generic LMS that really isn't built to serve the needs of medical education. So again, we'll go back to Lucy's view. Leo helps you really encourage more student reflection and helps you provide online feedback and formative assessment for students in things like, and again, straight from the calendar, I've mentioned we have discussions. You can have assignments in Leo. Students can do self-evaluations, which they find really, really helpful in terms of assessing themselves before they even get faculty feedback. Leo has a peer evaluation format, obviously event and course evaluations as well. There's also embedded SCORM content in Leo. And so if you all are familiar with SCORM, Articulate, things like that, if you want to have these interactive experiences, teaching kind of scenario-based activities for your students, there's lots of free tools out there that do this that can be embedded directly into Leo. The students can run through this directly in Leo. They don't have to log out and log into something else. And this is a very impactful way to engage students. And you can build scores into the content, and then you can plug those scores right back in to the grade book. So that's really, really helpful in terms, again, of engaging the students and being able to utilize that tool that isn't native to Leo, but that can be incorporated into Leo. One thing I wanted to say, speaking of the gradebook, is that Leo can also help you give your students more timely and specific personal feedback in those ways, like discussions and assignments and things like that. But you can also have comments in the gradebook. So I'm going to go back here now. We're in the power user mode over here. Going to go back to the section or course level here and just give you a peek at the gradebook. But if we look in the section here and we look at the little wheel here, and we want to edit these scores, I just wanted to show you too that you can add comments. You can have alpha scores as well as numeric scores. You can have grade matrices. You can have rubrics for grading and all sorts of things around grading. But all of this is to say things like comments can be one of the ways that faculty can help give students that comprehensive and informative feedback, especially. And the other thing that I keep referring to is we're going to go talk in a few minutes about the academic portrait, which is the way that you can really track student performance over time. You and your students can do that. And that's another place where faculty can give that feedback to students. Faculty can also use Leo to complete self-evaluations and reflect on their own teaching as well. And just very briefly, we were often asked if Leo can help with clinical education needs as well as basic science or preclinical, and the answer is a resounding yes. Leo is built to address the totality of your curriculum in a health sciences program. So again, I mentioned in Lucy's view here, if she's in a clinical course that's been set up with PET, patient encounter tracking, she can do patient encounter tracking here. Leo also helps with lotteries and signups to manage the assignment of students to clerkship rotations or events, or even just groups of students. You can use that functionality in that way. And of course, evaluations. So the evaluations, and particularly evaluations on demand, which I'm going to show in just a minute, is a way to help deliver that curriculum in a timely manner. And then Leo also helps with tracking communication, right? We've learned that you can't really over communicate with students. So being able to have the students look again in the activity bell up here, get messages and reminders in their inbox. They have an inbox built into Leo. You can send those via announcements or emails. The ability, again, to communicate what's happening in Leo to them in real time is really, really powerful and effective. So we've talked a little bit about how Leo can help with managing the curriculum, a little bit about delivering the curriculum, which touches on, some LMS functionality. Leo is also LTI compliant. So you are able to do anything that is lecture capture, Zoom links, those can all be automatically integrated into Leo. And again, gives the students a sense of seamlessness, right? They don't have to log out and go log into another system. It all happens within Leo. And so we've shared a little bit about how Leo can help with managing the curriculum, right? With delivering the curriculum. Now it's time to assess all that curriculum data, and Leo can help with that too. So the cornerstone assessment can cover a broad range of things, right? But the cornerstone of it typically is evaluations. And so I'd like to just give you a quick look at how that works for different stakeholders while still providing that unified overall picture for the administrators. So first of all, what evaluations are happening, right? Lucy, our student here, she can see if she's got evaluations in here, but she also, more importantly, she can go to her eval portal here and she sees that she's got, one evaluation that she needs to complete of a faculty member. She can also either request an evaluation or evaluate someone else on the fly. And this is really helpful in the clinical setting, especially. So if Lucy is in the clinic, and again, this can be done on a phone, can be done on a tablet, whatever device she's got, in the clinic, she clicks here. So this now is of the two, these are the two evaluation types that have been set up in pediatrics to be available for students on demand, right? So she's going to choose to ask someone to evaluate her on the fly in the clinic. Now, she gets to choose from the instructors who are associated with this. Again, she's in a pediatrics rotation. So by associating different faculty and clinical faculty with that particular rotation, you don't have to know what day or time they saw her. You just know that they're part of that rotation at some point. And then she knows if it's Dr. Isa or Dr. Smith that she saw, and she can click and choose that person. She can say, please evaluate me if she wants to. She submits that. Dr. Isa immediately gets an email on her phone or her device that says, you have an evaluation that needs to be completed. But let me show you here in our faculty portrait. So again, faculty and students both have exam portals and evaluation portals that can tell them what's going on. If there's any exams that day, it'll show up. They can go straight into the exam evaluation portal. Again, Robert Guthrie here has an evaluation of Lucy that he's expected to complete. He would do that, he would submit it. And if he had multiple ones, he wouldn't have to do them all at one time. So what happens is with those evaluations, then you have the ability to say whether or not those are viewable immediately by students or faculty, or if they need to go through what we call evaluation workflow. And sometimes you want to do that because you don't want them to be released right away. So we've got that flexibility on both those fronts. But the user friendliness of the evaluation tool really helps with compliance and helps with the ability to know who has completed the evaluations and who hasn't. And that's one of the things I wanted to show you. If we go back over here, again, moving now from like a student or a faculty view back up to an administrator's view, what happens with those evaluations? You've sent them out. Leo's calendar is really smart, helps you schedule them automatically. It knows who's seeing who over what periods of time. You can set reminders with the frequency that you'd like. So all of that stuff, by virtue of putting your curriculum data in this central calendar, all of those elements automatically fit together. So now you want to see, though, who's actually doing these, right? So we can go in and under this evaluation user status report as a super user, you get to pick an academic year. And then what we see here is we see, okay, these are all the evaluations, 441 of them that are out this year. But the really powerful thing in this is the filter. You can filter these evaluations, say, I want to only see the ones that were associated with that Intro to PEDS event. I want to see the only ones that were associated with this form of evaluation. So you have different forms of evaluations that are created in Leo that you can use and modify. Maybe it's a type. These are all abbreviations that you'll learn: clinical faculty evaluating students, faculty evaluation of students, students evaluating the course, things like that. So you've got all these ways to filter. And then I think this one's really cool is you can say, only give me the ones that are done on this date, or you can do another, let's find a later date than that, and use those as a min-max value for the range search. So you're saying, show me evaluations that were completed or issued during this time. And if we look over here at the actual results, and I don't know if you could tell that filtered as we did this, then you can sort by, are they completed? Are they expired? When did they complete them, right? Who evaluated? Who was evaluated? Where was it done? What type was it? And things like that. So this is really, really powerful. And again, as with virtually every report in Leo, it can be downloaded, because sometimes you do want to take this out into, it can be Excel, it can be SPSS, it can be something where you want to do different things with it. We give you the access to that data because this is your data and you should be able to do with it what you would like. So there's a lot to be said about evaluations. You can see all the different things you can do over here, but that gives you some sense of sort of what it feels like to receive one or take one or complete one, and how you sort of start to manage the results at the end of that. I've been talking a lot. I keep saying I'm going to show you when we're in the academic portrait. And so I did want to touch on that quickly. So for students, the academic portrait really tracks their performance over time in your program. It is a place in Leo where the students and their faculty and advisors have access. You can give very high-level administrative folks access, but it's a very intentional assignment. It's great for student affairs, student advising, being able to see how this student is doing, but it's not something that everybody can see. It is limited to their advisors or people who need to know. You can see the themes. We talked about themes again. And as I said, themes can be anything you want them to be. This is just a sample set here. And you can map them to all different elements of your curriculum. You can see here in the portrait, this theme of clinical skills was mapped to 74 evaluation questions that Lucy was involved with, 50 events that she was involved with, 3 assignments, 7 procedures, diagnoses. So you can see where that theme has been mapped. And then if you click in here, and this one again is demo, so it's kind of all over the map, but you can see, she can see, where did I get 1s? Where did I get 5s? You know, what was that? When did that happen? What course was that in? What session was that in? Which instructor was that who gave me that review? And especially for ones where she's struggling, here's a comment. She can look at the comments here, and she can then go back. Lucy can begin to remediate almost immediately, because she can say, oh, this was this course, or this was this session. And she can go back to the calendar and she can find those sessions. They'll still be there for her. And she can start to reevaluate that material. She can get with the instructor, she can get with her advisor, and be more proactive in remediating herself. One of the other things that's really powerful in the academic portrait that can help you see how your students are performing is this academics tab. So these are active courses. You can see the inactive courses. But what happens here with Lucy is she can click on that course and she can see this is her score right now in the course by category. This is how the gradebook in Leo presents the different elements of grading: is assignments, evaluations, exams. You can call them whatever you want. It shows Lucy her score. It shows the average score, which you do not have to make visible to your students if you don't want to. Some schools do, some schools don't. But if they want to see how they're performing against their cohort, they can see that, the differential there. And again, it shows her, she can go straight to the section. She can say, wow, I didn't think I was struggling that much. And she can go to the section and see that grade book. And she can also see her grades there too. But this is the place for Lucy to kind of really get her big picture. All the evaluations she's completed, the ones that other people have done of her, again, that have been released per your requirements, notes between Lucy and her advisors, custom demographics. This is something that can be built out to house virtually any set of data that you want to house on your faculty or your students. And that's really powerful. Portfolios, again, these are sample titles. You can just have first, second year portfolios, whatever you want to do. But the idea is to show that you can have multiple portfolios with multiple categories for each student. So you can really track anything that you want to track for those students. And then the noteworthy characteristics, which for the MSPE are kind of the high level bullet points that are really required. And I'll just very quickly go over here to Robert Guthrie. He also has a portrait as a faculty member. It's a little different. He can have an info screen. It can show his faculty workload. It's kind of a high level view of all the teaching that he's doing in the curriculum. He can also see his evaluations, what he needs to do, what he's done, and what others have done of him. He's got custom demographics as well, different set of demographics than you have for your students probably. And then publications, you can put in folks' PubMed identifiers, and then you can have all of his publications here in his portrait as well. And again, documents anything that he would want to upload as well. So again, telling that story of the unified curriculum, a single source of truth in terms of everything that's happening in your program, but limited and defined by what different people need to see and are entitled to see. So I always like to end with talking a little bit about how our implementation process works, because I think that's just as important for you, quite honestly, as how the software works. One of the things that we do with our team is we offer a client resource hub that is set up immediately upon the beginning of implementation. It's a place where all of your materials throughout implementation are gathered and retained. And so we do weekly personalized training sessions with your super users. We work strategically with you to figure out which parts of Leo you need to use first, what your situation is on the ground. Maybe you've got things coming up that are, are special circumstances. We really work hard to get on the same page with you about that so we can serve you well. Your hub would say things like names, contact information. It would show you your onboarding timeline, things like your pre-implementation, all the things you need to do for getting the system ready to go, onboarding, what's going to happen here. And as we work with you, we would fill out these dates together, right? So that anybody on your implementation team could look and be up to date. This is checklists that you will literally check off as you do these through the training and education sessions with our team. And then active implementation is still support you. We still check in with you. You have an opportunity to make a webinar request to join our community webinars. And then we also provide really rich faculty and student orientation materials that can either supplement your own or that can be standalone as you teach your faculty and students how to use Leo as well. So I do like to show the hub because it's really something I think quite special in terms of the level of service and support that you get from us. And it really demonstrates, I think, the many, many ways that Leo can help. So there is a lot here. And we're happy to move through the rest of your process with you, answer those questions, deliver materials to your technical team, purchasing team, anybody that has questions about how the process works. We've learned how to really facilitate that. I think the takeaway that I really hope you all will have is Leo is unique in its ability to show you, relative to your roles and responsibilities, everything that's happening in the curriculum, what you need to do, and how that impacts everything else. That's, I think, the uniqueness that then really helps drive actionable outcomes for everybody, students, faculty, staff, and leadership. And we've seen it time and time again over the last decade that we've been doing this. So I hope we'll have the opportunity to share that with you as well.